This is our review of the Benelli LEONCINO 500. Benelli are one of the oldest Italian motorcycle manufacturers, dating back to 1911. I've had this bike for the last few weeks and it's been really great fun. I had no idea what to expect of the LEONCINO, so I was incredibly surprised at how much fun this bike was to ride. The riding position is quite upright. These bars here, they're quite tall and they're quite wide. Initially I thought them being so wide was going to be a little bit of a problem, but actually being so wide meant that it was really agile and really flickable around the streets. Something that I really enjoyed actually. These high bars really gave you a lot of manoeuvrability. The bike is really comfortable. It has a really comfortable seat here, great for riding all day long, didn't have any problems with it at all. And there's a good space for a passenger here and some decent sized passenger grab rails. The seat height is 78.5 centimeters. I mean, it's not a tall bike, very comfortable. My feet were flat on the floor, and I don't think it's going to be too intimidating for a lot of riders. The engine is a liquid-cooled parallel twin 500cc. It has 47.6 horsepower at 8,500 revs, and power delivery was really smooth. Actually, it was quite potent. I was generally, most of the time, going a lot faster than I expected every time I looked down at the speedo. There's a 6-speed gearbox. I had a few problems with the gears in that I kept hitting a neutral and I have to lift my foot pretty high. I think I could probably fix that by just adjusting the gear lever, but on this test bike it was a bit frustrating. You can go pretty far in each gear too, so off the line suddenly I was going at 60 kilometers an hour. This bike is just fun, light and nimble and just goes pretty quickly, much faster than you expected. Especially as this is a naked bike and there's no wind protection. So you'd imagine there's a lot more buffeting around than you actually get as you reach higher speeds. The design of the LEONCINO is really stylish. I mean, it's designed by Centro Stile in Italy. It's manufactured in China. The lines flow really well. It has the Benelli trellis frame, which goes all the way through to the swing arm at the back. It has these great looking LED headlights, LED rear light here and LED indicators, giving it a real modern feel. This bike definitely has a few cheap components, so really just cheap things like these badges here, some of the plastic bits, the cable ties that tie the cables around the bike, they all have a bit of a cheap feeling. The mirrors, they're fine mirrors, but they look pretty dated. But actually, this bike costs €5,990, so they've got to compromise somewhere. The good thing is they've compromised on the cheap plastic parts and not on performance. I do love the little lion they've got on the front fender standing proudly. He is the Lion of Pesaro, which is the home of Benelli, and LEONCINO actually means little lion, so it suits it perfectly. A little bit of Italian style, very European feeling, this bike. The display here is really nice. There's a really clear cockpit, although they've got some cheap cable ties. They keep everything out of the way and give quite a clean feel to it. It's got a gear selector indicator, it's got a fuel gauge. I found I had a few problems with the fuel gauge in that when it got quite low, it would flick between flashing like it was running out and actually having a bit of fuel left in it. And so that uncertainty left me a bit unsettled when I was riding in the mountains. There was no fuel stations in sight, and actually it was just a little bit unnerving really. So I just had to make sure I compensated for that by filling up all the time. Covering the display is a plastic cover, and sometimes you can't see this very well because the light's shining and reflecting off it, but what can you expect for a bike that's under €6,000? For brakes, it has twin floating discs at the front with 4-pot calipers, a single disc, single caliper at the rear. The braking overall was definitely sufficient for a bike of this power and this weight. The ABS sometimes is a little bit keen and seemed to kick in a little bit too early, so it's a little bit intrusive. You can turn the ABS off. There's a button here to turn the ABS off, so that's really up to you, but I left the ABS on. It's got a nice big back brake pedal, and with these high bars would make a great bike for going off-road on a few trails. Ground clearance is only 14.5 centimeters. The tyres definitely weren't the right tyres for trails, but there is a different version of this called the LEONCINO Trail. It's got spoked wheels with a 19-inch at the front, and then it's got different tyres for off-road. But ground clearance goes from 14.5 centimeters to 18.5 centimeters, and I think it's got a sump protector as well. This I'm sure will be a lot of fun to ride. The wheels on this bike are 17-inch alloys, front and rear. The exhaust note is really good. This is a stock exhaust, Euro 4 compliant, and actually has a good deep throaty sound straight off the bat. Usually the Euro 4s kind of deadens all the fun sound and you have to swap out the end can to an aftermarket part, but actually this sounds pretty good straight out of the box. The suspension on this bike was much better than I expected from a bike of this price. Really firm, you've got inverted front forks, 50mm, monoshock on the back, adjustable, and actually I really thought the bike felt very solid and very planted. This is a naked motorcycle, so no wind protection at all. Not great if you're going on the highways. You wouldn't want to buy a bike like this for long distance touring. It's got a 13.5 litre fuel tank, so it's got a decent sized fuel tank, take you out for the full day and not have to worry about it too much. Fuel consumption is pretty good, and actually it's great for riding up the mountain roads. I really enjoyed it in the mountains here. It has a dry weight of 186 kilograms, meaning it's a light bike, really agile, and I really felt that when I was riding it. I think the Leoncino has a real charm about it. I really enjoyed riding this bike. Apart from the ABS, the Leoncino doesn't have any electronic features. It's quite a basic motorcycle in that sense, but for €5,990, which includes a 3-year warranty, this is a really great bike. This bike is the perfect bike if you're looking for your first proper motorcycle. It's got some power, it looks great, and it's really fun to ride. Also, if you just want a nice fun bike to ride through the mountain passes, just enjoy riding through town, then this is the bike for you. It's always good to be surprised by a motorcycle. I was really surprised by the Leoncino 500. Had a great time riding it these last few weeks, and so I think it's definitely worth taking a look at and gets a big thumbs up from me.